becoming a retail consultant. Hey guys, it's Syama, CEO of Scaling Retail. I get asked often my path to becoming a retail consultant and how to become one as well. So I want to quickly kind of go over what some of the key things are when it comes to becoming a retail consultant and how you too can start to take those steps to having some financial independence. More often than not, guys, when we come from these corporate backgrounds, it can be hard to understand what value or how to fully translate big corporate background experience into working with other kinds of businesses where maybe are not retained full time. Now, my personal journey, and I'll unpack that for a few minutes, and then we'll kind of move into some of the more strategic plans here. But my personal journey here really came from working at those big corporate environments. I held positions at companies like Macy's, at Barney's, at Gucci. I had known back in 2008, though, that I wanted to do retail strategy consulting. So for me, starting from 2008 to 2012, I was moonlighting as a consultant. I took my time to fully understand what it was that my target market needed and how it was that I could translate those services. It was a pretty low risk investment for me. After all, I still had a full-time job and I was able to hone in on truly what my craft was. By the time it was 2012, I had a pretty good understanding of what the services were that I could provide, what my deliverables were, and how exactly I wanted to position myself. My mission statement today is the same as it was back in 2008, which is to be the McKinsey for small fashion brands. And in fact, guys, working in those startup spaces is exactly what I continue to do now more than ever. But how are you going to be able to make a similar transition, and what does that look like for you? Well, first and foremost, when it comes to taking those corporate backgrounds and translating them into a consultancy, you really have to ask yourself, what the hell was it that I was actually good at? Oftentimes in our resumes and our CVs, we have a whole list of things that we accomplished or that we had our hands involved in. But when it comes to working with small businesses, what's more important isn't just that you've experienced all these things, but you actually have some tangible deliverables of things that you actually know how to do. I'll give you an example. Did you actually participate in growing a business from, $50 to $100 million by executing particular strategies that had particular results? Or were you simply in those meetings where people were talking about doing those things and so you had an understanding of the process, but no real application to it? Now, if you happen to be in the former, which is you have a direct output related to the work you did, great. That gives you an idea of what your core competencies are, what those deliverables can be. If you're in the latter and you happen to have just been in those rooms, unfortunately, it makes you a very dangerous consultant, which means that you might have an idea of how some of those things work, but you maybe don't have quite that same experience of knowing how to execute. So first thing to keep in mind are consultants are there for a particular reason. They're here to be able to provide a certain result, some sort of deliverable. So figure out what your niche is, figure out exactly what those deliverables are that you can actually produce for a customer, and then also ask yourself, am I wanting to take my consultancy and apply it to bigger businesses because I come from a bigger retail background? Or am I trying to find ways to scale it down to provide actionable, desirable results for smaller businesses? Now, personally, for me, smaller businesses have always been where it's at. Why is that? Because that's really where you can see change. It's really where you can impact leadership. It's where you can actually build something that has values embedded into it that can be sustainable and grow. Many of these larger retail businesses are not run efficiently. There's lots of bureaucracy, archaic practices, and they're simply not on the front lines of innovation and change. So that is why, for me, I found smaller businesses to be really my niche. However, for you, it might be taking your business skills and becoming simply a consultant to other bigger businesses. That is going to be fine, and that's going to be a different strategy than what I'm about to unpack for you, which is really specific to working with small business. So once you understand what your niche is, right? Once you understand what you're focusing on, what are your actual deliverables? Did you run social media for a company? Or were you simply in those rooms, right? Have an understanding of what those deliverables are. The next thing you want to do is start to really build out what your revenue model is. This is very important. Most consultants don't realize that understanding your revenue model is the difference between you making $50,000 a year or making $150,000 a year. I hope today you guys are watching this video because you're interested in making money. And if you're interested in making money, which is something I personally like to do and help people do, then you want to understand those revenue models and really where your core competency fits with the ability to capture those clients. So understand, are you working on an hourly basis? Are you working on a retainer basis? What is the deliverable that's going to be in tandem with that revenue model? If you're operating, guys, on an hourly basis, what is your customer actually going to be walking away from? If you're operating on a retainer basis, again, same question. What are those deliverables? Get very specific. Understand what you do very, very well and what it is that you do not do. The worst thing that I see consultants do is over-pitch themselves into things that they have no business putting their hands on. A good example of that is when I get on the phone with someone and say, hey guys, I don't draw. I'm not a designer. Yeah, I might know how to assortment plan, merchandise, understand product market fit, but I'm not the person who's going to have oversight on your tech packs. I don't know the first thing when it comes to doing size grading. So it's very important to know what is your native space? Where do you want to be in for these people? And what is it that you actually cannot do for them? Get very, very clear. Next, we look at building your social proof and pitching. Super important, right? So quickly to recap, we've got knowing your niche, we have understanding your revenue models, understanding what your actual deliverables are, and then starting to figure out now how to pitch and how to position and get yourself social proof. Very important when you're looking to pitch yourself for the first time as a new consultant, that you do not, again, overpromise, but that you also set up a structure and a way that helps you learn the most. Chances are you're not going to get paid as much as you would later down the road because you're getting your training wheels, right? You are understanding how things operate. Be very clear with the businesses that you're working with. Hey, I'm practicing, right? These are my first couple clients. This is what I'm applying, right? I would like to get feedback from you throughout this process as to whether or not this is working for you. In fact, even as you become more consistent, you will likely also be asking for feedback along the way, as I often do, because I'm always refining how I deliver information, the right consistency of that information, and sequencing of information. So every person is going to learn in a different way, and my job is to make sure that I understand that my clients are learning how they need to learn, and the information that I need to deliver is landing with them. So similarly, you're going to be asking for feedback. You'll be building a small cohort of your initial clients. And guys, you're going to be leveraging them for social proof and your testimonials. They're going to become the first people where you're going to be able to espouse what it is you've been able to do and the efficacy of what you've actually been able to deliver. Not every single client is going to be an award-winning client, right? Your initial clients are going to be those that you're probably extremely proud of, but you're going to have learned a lot. It's going to take you some time to build up your portfolio. Now, social proof is also in tandem with how you're looking at brand building and marketing your business. As an independent, as a retail consultant, there are a number of different platforms that are available to you to get your messaging out. I highly suggest you go where you are most comfortable. I love to be on camera. I'm not so keen on writing, though occasionally for Forbes I will, because that's important and it's great for brand building. But I personally prefer to get on camera. Put me on a stage, get me on a webinar, put me in front of a camera, and that is the way in which I am best delivering information. For some of you, that might be the case. For others of you, it might not be. So just because you hear that video is the new thing, remember, being able to speak authentically and delivering your information is really going to be the most important. Now, if you struggle when it comes to self-branding or self-promotion, you might find yourself better suited to be under the umbrella of an existing consultancy, and that's fine. You might find yourself working with companies like Scaling Retail or other consultancies where they're looking to build out in-house teams or take on mentorship or small group programs to help you kind of cultivate and keep generating revenue while exercising your skill set as a new consultant. That is also perfectly acceptable. But when it comes to truly building out your own business, and if you want that to take legs and expand and move from an individual contributor to the CEO of a consultancy, it's very important that you start to understand those platforms that you want to be communicating on. All right, guys, that's my brief overview as far as how to enter into this world of retail consulting. I am opening up a small group program for a number of people who are interested in starting to really grease their wheels in making that transition from going to corporate executive to a six-figure retail consultant. And if you guys are interested in being a part of that cohort, please shoot me an email at syama@scalingretail.com. And Syama is spelled Syama. So hope to hear from you guys soon. Would love to be able to build with you. You know, as corporate executives, there's so much that you've been able to apply and give to big business. Most certainly many of those skills are applicable to smaller businesses, and chances are you just may not know how it's applicable, how to market it, how to position it, and perhaps you're even dealing with or struggling with identifying your own core competencies in that type of consulting environment. Very important you understand what is it you're great at and what you're not great at. Sell into your core competencies because that is where you will find your most successful clients. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.